So Donald Trump released his first official TV ad of the election. Now, in many ways, he's actually been somewhat revolutionary in this field because he's been running a lot of ads on Twitter, which I think cost him $0 and 0 cents. He's been doing it through Vine, I think, and on other social media platforms, and he has a tremendous following on social media. I mean, many of them that follow him are probably trolls, including myself. But bottom line is, he's been releasing ads and getting his message out for a while, and he's done it in a smart way where he doesn't waste money, unlike an idiot like Jeb Bush, who just goes exactly through the system and doesn't think outside the box and ends up spending millions of dollars to buy TV ads and TV ads alone. So in that way, in strategy, he's actually been better than a lot of the other Republican candidates, and you got to give him credit for that. But now, since he's saved up plenty of money to spend in other areas, he's decided to run some ads on TV. I believe this ad that you're about to see is playing in Iowa and perhaps New Hampshire as well. And my main takeaway from the ad is that it looks like he's running for class president. Let's take a look.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism. That's why he's calling for a temporary shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can figure out what's going on. He'll quickly cut the head off ISIS and take their oil. And he'll stop illegal immigration by building a wall on our southern border that Mexico will pay for.
We will make America great again.
What's incredible is he just says whatever he wants. It could make no sense. It could be not possible policy-wise, but he says it anyway. And then a lot of people hear it and go, oh, yeah, that's right, I'm going to vote for him because of that. Wait, he just said he's going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. How? How does that work? How can the U.S. government go through, the steps and the process that we have here? How can you go through Congress here, sign an executive order or something that's legally binding against Mexico? You can't. That you simply cannot do that. That's not the way a free and independent and sovereign country works. I know Donald Trump doesn't think highly of Mexico, but guess what? They get to make their own decisions as a country. He just says it. He just says it. There's nothing to back it up. He just says it. I mean, I guess the only way that he could really get that accomplished is what? If you call up the government of Mexico and you say, hey, I just want to let you know, if you don't pay for the wall, we're going to invade you, and we're going to do a war against you. So you're going to pay for it, or you're going to fight a war against us, and that'll be over in 7 minutes because our military is much more powerful than yours, clearly. So what are you going to do? But is that the kind of president you want? Do you want a president who acts as a terrorist? Who says, if you don't do this thing that I'm demanding, which you don't need to do, but if you don't do it because I'm demanding it, I will invade and attack you. Guys, we have a crazy person running for president. Donald Trump is an absolute lunatic. How anybody could watch that and go, that's my guy right there. It blows my fucking mind. And then look at some of the other stuff that he says. He says, cut the head off of ISIS. Classic Donald Trump move. He doesn't want to actually act like a civilized person in terms of, and say what you want about even the other Republican candidates, but Jeb Bush, for example, he's terrible in the polls, he's not charismatic, he's not going to win, all the problems. But at least, he tries to have the conversation like an adult. And believe me, he says things I disagree with policy-wise. But at least he's like, okay, Donald, let's be serious. You're not going to ban all Muslims. That's a crazy idea. And you're alienating the people who are fighting ISIS, who are our allies, whether it's the Kurds or whether it's other moderate Sunnis in the region or the Shia militias or whatever. What are you doing? What are you doing? Donald Trump, no, I will cut the head off of ISIS. So you're going to do the tactics that they do. Wonderful. Why don't we bring back beheadings? We'll do it in Kansas instead of doing other forms of the death penalty. Why not? Hey, cut the head off of ISIS. An eye for an eye, right? Nothing could be wrong with that. It's not like that leaves the whole world blind. I think that's like a Gandhi quote or something. But anyway, I digress. And he says, of course, take the oil. So wait. Because he says these things so fast, people just like, oh, okay, I don't know, I guess I'm for it, the Republican base. He said, cut the head off ISIS and take their oil. But okay, they stole oil from where? Well, you could say certain parts of Syria. That's the Syrian government's oil. Whatever you think of Bashar Assad and the government, but that is their oil, right? He's like, no, get rid of ISIS, take their oil, so do that in Syria, and I guess in Iraq too. So in other words, he's saying, as he said before very clearly in his CPAC speech among other times, he's like, no, I would have taken the oil after after Iraq was invaded, the country that didn't attack us, okay, and it was a war crime that we even went in there, but yeah, I would take the oil after we've gone in there, of course. Guys, he advocates for war crimes during live debates. He advocates for war crimes during CPAC speeches. This isn't a debatable issue. You don't get to muse out loud about, hey, well, whatever, we'll invade whoever we want, take whatever oil we want. You're saying, I will run a terrorist nation. You're advocating for it. Imagine any other country had the same conversation. Any other country. They just have speeches. We're like, who are we going to invade next? Iran, Iraq? I don't know. But whatever, let's knock off the bad guys and then not, hey, destroy the oil field so nobody gets it or return it back to the rightful government where the oil actually is in their country. No, then we're going to take it. Then we're going to take it. So you want to be an equal and opposite thug. Unreal. And then, of course, he has to bring up politicians may say it's other stuff, but I say it's radical Islamic terrorism. Okay, and what does that have to do with policy? Now, by the way, I agree. Call it what it is. It's radical Islamic terrorism. You can't say that that's generalizing because you have the term radical is there. That's the word that's the qualifier. So it is radical Islamic terrorism. You should call it that. But now the Republicans have tried to make this a partisan issue and to portray the Democrats as weak. It's like, why won't you say it? Just say it. But they say jihadists, which is also a religious term and which is alluding to the same thing. It's like, no, but call it radical Islamic terrorism. But see, this is when you can't win on substance, because when we hear his substance, he's terrible. What do? You try to win in stupid ways by playing semantic games like, we called it radical Islamic terrorism, you didn't, we win, you lose, vote for us. And what's the other policy thing he put in there? He doubled down on shut down Muslim immigration into the country. Not even that, shut down Muslims entering the country. Because it was unclear originally if he meant like a Muslim American goes on vacation and tries to come back. He's like, well, what are we going to do? Maybe we'll have to turn him away. It depends. Depends who it is. Again, everything he calls for is counterproductive on this. You think that's going to help you? When the Kurds are, one of the biggest forces fighting against ISIS. When the Syrian forces, the Muslims as well, one of the biggest forces fighting against ISIS. When other moderate Sunnis are fighting them, when Shia militias are fighting them, when the overwhelming majority of the people on the ground fighting ISIS are other Muslims, and you say, I will not allow any Muslims in. How does that help the situation? And furthermore, it doesn't even make sense, because, I'm so afraid of ISIS. Well, by definition, a Shia Muslim cannot be a jihadist and cannot be in ISIS, because they want to kill all the Shias. And actually, to be clear, they do allow for jihad under more restricted circumstances in Shia Islam. But over 80% of the attacks against the West from Muslim fundamentalists is from the Sunni fundamentalists, not the Shia. So again, if you say, the Shia are as big of a security risk as the fundamentalist Sunnis, that's just not true. That shows your ignorance. It shows that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And we can go further on this. The Sufi Muslims, they believe in mysticism and, they want nothing to do with holy war of any kind. What are you going to do? Say no to them either? No to them as well? What are you going to say no to Ahmadiyya Muslims, who are a very moderate branch of Islam, a liberal branch of Islam, it's even fair to say? What are you going to do? Are you going to reject all of them? I mean, how about Indonesia, the most populous Muslim country in the world? There's a group there, I think they're called NU. They're 50 million deep. That's a huge number of people. And they jumped into the theological battle against ISIS, and they said, no, we're going to take them on in the realm of theology, and we're going to tell them they're wrong, and we're going to tell them that the way to interpret Islam is peaceful, and this and that. So when everybody screams, where are the moderate Muslims speaking up against ISIS? They're like, here we are. 50 million of us, the largest Muslim group in the world. We're going to combat them theologically. And what does Donald Trump say? Stop all Muslims from entering the U.S. That's just a stupid idea. You're just a dunce. You're just a simpleton. You're not intelligent. You don't know how to think in a nuanced way. And you are generalizing, and you are blaming all Muslims, quite literally, because you're saying, I don't want any Muslims in the U.S. And this is not me saying, hey, don't do background checks. Don't be smart about who you let in and have a vetting process. I believe in a vetting process, but I'm not an idiot, which means I'm not going to say ban all Muslims. He said it and then he doubled down. Unbelievable. And the entire time going up in the polls, up in the polls. Neo-Nazi retweets from Trump, up in the polls. Saying, hey, we're going to have to target the families of ISIS. You know, target their families. That's what we do. Calling for killing of civilians. He's saying, let's be like terrorists. Up in the polls. Saying, hey, we should torture, quote, even if it doesn't work. As he said. Up in the polls the entire time. For the Republican base, you should be embarrassed with the rise of this pathetic loser to the top of your field. And the final thing I'll say is he isn't even what he claims to be. Like, everybody's like, well, you know, for all the bad things he says, at least you can rely on the fact that he's a leader and he's a businessman and he gets things done. He knows how to be successful. How many of his businesses went bankrupt? 4. How many of my businesses went bankrupt? 0. I guess by one metric, I'm a better businessman than Donald Trump. And also, by the way, I didn't inherit millions of dollars. His dad was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You give anybody a couple $100 million head start, guess what? They're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. All they need to do is put it in the right kind of investment account, and the money makes money. You need money to make money. Well, that's if you have that kind of money, you're going to make money if you do very safe investments. So he's not what you think he is. He's a dunce, and ads like this